Benedetti. Tell me when. Yes? Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We think we're going to do service 2 today for a moment, and we're going to try, and we hope that you are having a wonderful day. The weather was beautiful today. I feel a little bit like fall. I've seen some leaves falling from the trees, and it's kind of refreshing to have that. So we're hoping to get some Shabbat refreshing out of this today. So before we begin, just in case the week was stressful for you, because it was stressful for me. It was very stressful for me. But look, my nose cast is off, and I'm doing okay, not hurting, except the only time it hurts, I forget. I get in the shower, and you know that first gush that comes on your head, and you like close your eyes really tight? That's when it hurts. I forget. I scrunch up my eyes, and it hurts. And then I have to remember to take my shower with my eyes like this, with it open almost. But I'm feeling good, and it wasn't that there's the joke about, it wasn't a nose job. I'm not going to tell my joke. It was not a nose job. They didn't give me a brochure to let me, and I want to say pick my nose, but I couldn't say pick my nose. That's what I didn't want to say. It looks like what it looks like, and I think it's adorable. But there was a lot of stress this week, so we begin each week, as we always do, with trying to release the stress, taking a deep breath, which I can, and letting out slowly, which I also can. One more time. And again out. We are going to do service 2, so we begin on page 65. I'm going to ask you to please rise if it's comfortable. You don't have to if it's not comfortable. Page 65, and I invite you to read with me. As these candles give light to all who behold them, so may we give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. And I'm going to do this in Hebrew. If you want to read it in English, you may. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Shabbat. Shabbat candles, I love them. Let there be joy. Let there be peace. You may be seated. We are about to welcome the Sabbath bride. We are going to sing the first verse and the last verse. And I know there's a tradition about welcoming the Sabbath bride by standing up and watching the bride come in. But I'm going to let you use your imagination instead of standing up. First and last.
Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabala.
Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabala.
Lecha
That was wonderful like that. I like that. We continue on page 67. Didn't you like that? I love that. We should have just done that a few times. That would have been more fun. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness and of the impulse within us for justice and mercy, we pray that this hour of worship may be one of vision and inspiration. Help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives.
Bless all who enter the sanctuary in search and in need, all who bring to this place the offering of their hearts. May our worship here lead us to fulfill our words and intentions with acts of kindness, peace, and love.
We have come together to strengthen our bonds with our people Israel. Like Jews of generations past, we celebrate the grandeur of creation. Like Jews of every age, we echo our people's ancient call for justice.
Our celebration is a sharing of memory and hope.
We are Jews, but each of us is unique. We stand apart and alone with different feelings and insights, differing feelings and insights. And yet we are not entirely alone and separate, for we are children of one people and one heritage.
Our celebration unites many separate selves into a single chorus.
And we are one in search of life's meaning. All of us know despair and exaltation. All bear burdens. All have moments of weakness and times of strength. All sing songs of sorrow and love.
May our celebration bring us strength along our way.
In this circle of hope, in the presence of the sacred, may the heart come to know itself and its best, finding a fresh impulse to love the good.
May our celebration lead us to work for the good, and may this Shabbat give strength to us and to our people Israel.
It's good for us to be sitting here together. Hine ma tovu manaim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manaim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Many are the generations of Israel, and in every age we have sought the living God through Sabbath rest and worship. This time and place hold the power to increase our joy in the eternal. O God, even as we seek you in the sanctuary, help us to know that your glory fills all space. Make us understand that you are with us at all times, if we but open our minds to you.
We feel the presence of your Spirit in our homes and on our ways. We see the beauty of your creation in mountain, sea, and sky, and in the human form. We hear you in the silence of our own hearts, speaking the truths the heart knows.
May we be your witness to the world, your messenger to all the earth.
May we show forth your image within us, the divine spark that makes us human.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, be'alma divra chiruteh, v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chayed chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala, ba'agala, u'vizman kariv, v'meru, amen. Yehesh meraba mevarach la'alam u'alme almaya yitbarach yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpahar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemeh dekudisha b'richu le'lamin kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata Damiran be'alma v'meru, amen. Barechu et Adonai hamevorach.
Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam va'ed.
As day departs, as the dark of night descends, we lift our eyes to the heavens. In awe and wonder, our hearts cry out.
Eternal God, how majestic is your name in all the earth.
A vast universe, who can know it? What mind can fathom it? We look out to the endless suns and ask, what are we? What are our dreams and our hopes? What are we that you are mindful of us? What are we that you should care for us?
And yet within us abides a measure of your spirit. You are remote, but oh how near, ordering the stars in the vast solitudes of the dark, yet whispering in our minds that you are closer than the air we breathe. For you have made us little less than divine, and crowned us with glory and honor. With love and awe we turn to you, and in the dark of evening we seek the light of your presence.
One and only God, you have made each of us unique and formed us to be united in one family of life. Be with us, Eternal One, as we seek to unite our lives with your power and your love. We proclaim now your oneness
and our own hope for unity.
We acclaim your creative power in the universe and in ourselves, the law that binds world to world and heart to heart.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
You may be seated. Thanks. Yeah, let's do that. Thank you. We continue on page 72, and we have an English translation. We have the Hebrew. I'm going to take a vote. You want to do it in Hebrew or you want to do it in English? Or both? How many people say Hebrew? How many people say English? How many people don't care how we do the Vahafta? That's kind of cool. That's what I like. Hebrew, we're going to do that. I like one person voted. And you'll see why it's important that we do that. So we're on page 72 for the Vahafta. And we're going to chant it. We're not just going to do it in Hebrew, we're going to sing it in Hebrew. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha. Page 72. Ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele ha'er asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha vishinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'vetecha uvelechtecha v'derech uveshochbecha uvekumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchetavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkiruhu v'asitem et kol mitzvotai vitem kedoshim le'elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet. That means Adonai, y'all's God, true. And then the next word on the next paragraph is emet. And I know I talk too much, but I want to show you that word, emet. Do you see that word? The first word on the top right of page 73? It's made up of 3 Hebrew letters. In Yiddish we say emes, but in Hebrew we say emet, like the clown. Anybody old enough to remember Emmet the clown? Phew, I'm glad I got a good crowd here. But the word emet is made up of 3 letters. The first letter is aleph. Aleph is open in all directions, and it sounds like this. Mem looks like a mountain with a little missile coming out. That's the middle letter. And tav is attached at the top with a little tail or a toe at the bottom left. And the word emet, truth, is made up of the first letter of the alphabet, the last letter of the alphabet, and in the middle is the middle letter of the alphabet, which to me means that one little word about truth encompasses everything. I think that's cool about Hebrew letters. It doesn't happen like that usually with English words. But it says emet, and it's about truth. The whole paragraph's about truth. In the translation, if you see on page 73, there's an open circle on there, which means we've got a very free interpretation of what this prayer is about. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness, a world waiting still to be redeemed, give us, O source of good, the courage to say, there is one God in heaven and earth.
The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and your love.
From Egypt, the house of bondage, we were delivered. At Sinai, amid peals of thunder, we bound ourselves to your purpose. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, we survived oppression and exile, time and again overcoming the forces that would have destroyed us.
Our failings are many, our faults are great, yet it has been our glory to bear witness to our God and to keep alive in dark ages the vision of a world redeemed.
May this vision never fade. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we sing with one accord, as Moses, Miriam, and Israel sang at the shores of the sea.
Ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha neda b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef ele, nora tehilot osef ele. Ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la la, ya la 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 la.
Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael, we praise you, O God, Redeemer of Israel, and then we jump to the bottom of page 74. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Eternal God, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up to find our hearts waiting to do your will.
We praise you, guardian of Israel, whose love gives light to all the world.
God of Israel, may our worship on this day help us to grow in loyalty to our covenant with you and to the way of life it demands, the way of gentleness and justice, the path of truth and of peace. Vishameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Beini uven b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. Vishameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית העולם וביום השביעי שבת וינפש שבת וינפש שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית העולם. Please rise for the tefillah, which begins on page 76. Oh, if you can. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, ve'Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, ve'Koneh HaKol, ve'Zocher Chaste Avot ve'Imahot, u'mevii geula livnei v'nehem, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. I love this translation at the bottom of 76. Source of all being, we turn to you as did our people in ancient days. They beheld you in the heavens, they felt you in their hearts, they sought you in their lives. Now their quest is ours. Help us, O God, to celebrate the wonder of being. Give us the courage to search for truth. Teach us the path to a better life. So shall we, by our lives and our labors, bring near to realization the great hope inherited from ages past for a world transformed by liberty, justice, and peace. Your might, O God, is everlasting.
Help us to use our strength for good.
You are the source of life and blessing.
Help us to choose life for ourselves and our children.
You are the support of the fallen.
Help us to lift up the fallen.
You are the author of freedom.
Help us to free the captive.
You are our hope in death as in life.
Help us to keep faith with those who sleep in the dust.
Your might, O God, is everlasting.
Help us to use our strength for good.
You are Kadosh, holy. Your name is Kadosh, holy. And those who strive to be Kedoshim, holy, declare your glory day by day. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. We praise you, Eternal One, the Holy God. You may be seated. Oh, wait, what do we got here? I know what to do. Watch. La la la. You want to hear my drum? Then I got to do this. Yismechu v'malechutecha shomere 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 Shabbat koreh oneg Shabbat mikadeshe shvi Shabbat kulam yisbeu v'yitangu mituvecha Shabbat yismechu v'malechutecha shomere 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 Shabbat koreh oneg Shabbat v'hashvi'i ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat chemdat yamim oto karata Shabbat yismechu v'malechutecha shomere 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 Shabbat koreh oneg Shabbat zecher למעשה וראשית שבת זכר למעשה וראשית שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת קורא עונג שבת. You know that I have a student that I'm working with who went to bar mitzvah in another place the other day, and they sang this song, and nobody was drumming. And she's like, why isn't anybody drumming? So she started kind of doing it. I love that. Isn't that funny that there are places that don't drum for that one? How could you not drum for that one? We continue at the top of 79. God of Israel,
may our worship on this Sabbath bring us near to all that is high and holy. May it bind the generations in bonds of love and sharing, and unite us with our people in common hope and faith. And through Sabbath rest and worship, may we learn to find fulfillment and joy in the vision of peace for all the world.
You are with us in our prayer, in our love and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, and pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service.
Eternal source of good, we give thanks for the numberless gifts and blessings that fill our days, for life itself and its endless variety, for all that sustains body and mind, for love and friendship, for the delights of the senses, and for the excellence of your Torah, which deepens our life and enriches our days. Teach us, God of wonders, to work for a just and compassionate society, where all may share your gifts in the joy of freedom.
And we sing about peace.
Shalom Rab al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Lo Olam. Shalom Rab al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Lo Olam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim lo olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim lo olam. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Lo Olam. Tasim Lo Olam. Tasim Lo Olam.
Take a moment of silent prayer, whatever's in our own hearts. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, be acceptable to you. Adonai tzuri, tzuri v'gohali, God my rock and redeemer. Make up your mind, Rabbi. No, I wanted to sing it both ways. At this point in our service, our hearts and our prayers turn to those who are ill or recuperating, and we turn to the inside back cover of our prayer book. If you have names you would like us to be saying prayers for, I invite you to call out names for healing and recuperation. Prayers help, I can tell you that. We read together, O God, in our hearts we name those who are facing illness and pain. We join our prayers with the prayers of all who love them. Give them renewed comfort and courage. Strengthen in them the healing powers you have placed within us all. Guide the hands and hearts of those who are entrusted with your care. May the knowledge of your love and ours give added hope to them and to their dear ones. May they find even greater strength because our prayers are linked to theirs. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofeh HaCholim. We praise you, eternal God, the source of healing and health. And it has become our tradition to add a prayer for those who are serving as our first responders, the ones who run into danger for us. Misheberach avotenu v'imotenu. May the one who blessed and protected our ancestors guard all those whom we've entrusted with the responsibility of defending our freedom, protecting us, or healing us, in this country, in the land of Israel, and everywhere they've been called to serve. Give them courage to succeed and strength to persevere. May they return home safely, and let us say, Amen. I did the interment today for Bertha Omega Bodenheimer Feldman. She was 98. And she wasn't a member here, though, sorry. That makes it, she was out of the running for oldest congregant. So I found out that she, in the obituary that they sent me, that she was able to stand on her head into her 70s, is what it said in the thing. At the ceremony this morning, there was a little bit of a debate about, it was in her 60s, her husband made her stop standing on her head, and that her granddaughter can stand on her head. It's kind of an interesting long line of standing on your head stories that I thought was pretty cool. It reminded me of the story that I've told you a few times, I think, about when I was in rabbinic school, when we had our the end of the session, just before we were ordained. And the rabbi, the head rabbi, who was 95 at the time, told a story about when he came here and to America. He was born in Austria, I think, but he came and he was, it was the 60s, and he was learning about yoga and transcendental meditation and things like that. And when he was trying to do yoga, does anybody here do yoga? Have you ever tried doing yoga? So he was trying to do yoga, and which was a very 60s thing to do in those days. But he said that he was very traditionally built. In the 60s. And when he would try to do a headstand, he would topple right over. Every single time he tried to do, like, you start with a I remember doing it in gym class, in gymnastics, in PE, in school. You start with like a tripod on the floor, and you put your head on one part of the triangle and your hands on the other, and then you put your hands on your knees on your hands, and then you go, and he just kept toppling. Whatever he tried, he just kept toppling. And one day he met a yogi, an instructor, and he said, you know, the one thing that I really, really can't do, and it's a fairly simple thing, is I can't stand on my head. And the yogi said, you know what? We're doing a special summer session. Come to the ashram we have upstate New York, and I'll help you. And the rabbi was thrilled that he was finally going to be able to do this because it was embarrassing. Everybody else around him seemed to be able to do it. So he gets there, they do other things, and then comes the moment where they try to do this headstand. And he tries, everybody else is trying it, and he falls over. And the yogi says, try it again, and he tries to do it, and he falls over. And the yogi says, come here, come up to the front. And he's so excited because he knows he's going to learn from the best of the best. And he gets up in the front of everybody, and he says, okay, show me what you're doing. And he's so excited because he's going to get pointed out what he's doing wrong. And he gets up there, and he tries to do a headstand, and he topples over. And the yogi says, thank you, and sends him back without telling him what to do. And the next day, same thing happens. He tries, he tumbles. The yogi says, come up in front and show us what you're doing. He does it. He falls over. He's humiliated every day for a week. And at the end of the week, he said, Yogi, my master, he said, why are you humiliating me? I came here to learn how to do a headstand, and why do you make me get in front of everybody and do a headstand when all I do is topple and embarrass myself? And the yogi said, sometimes in life, you learn by seeing what not to do. So everybody else got to learn from his bad form. I don't know that he ever learned how to do one, but I love that story because it reminds me of the Torah portion this week, which is a very stressful Torah portion for me. We read it every year at the High Holy Days on Rosh Hashanah about, they call it Akedat Yitzchak, the binding of Isaac. The Torah portion has a lot in it. It starts with the angels coming and telling Abraham and Sarah that they're going to have babies, and Sarah laughs because she's 90 years old and she doesn't think she's going to have a baby at 90. And Abraham's even older, and how is he going to make a baby with her when he's that old? And there's this whole story, and then they do have a baby. But somewhere in the middle of this story, Abraham is told to bring his son, the one he loves, and be sacrificed in a place that I'm going to show you. And he seems to be doing it. And it is a very stressful story. It's so stressful that even now, that the last few years, Ron Neerman reads that Torah portion in Hebrew to honor the memory of his father Neil. And every time, he reads it really well. And every time he gets to the part where he takes his hand with his knife to offer his son, I cringe. Every time he says it, I jump, no, no. And instead he finds there's a ram stuck in the thicket, and the son is spared. And when we talk about this during Torah study, we wonder, what about the psychological damage to Abraham for having been put through this, or Isaac for having been put through this, or Sarah? Next week, the Torah portion is about Sarah dying. But I have a really wonderful story I want to share with you. I hope I remember for next week about this story. But her heart broke when she realized what her husband was doing, according to one interpretation. So next week I want to read you a different interpretation, but one that I don't remember seeing before. But it's a traumatic thing. And so sometimes I think that the lesson we learn from Torah, which is our guidebook, there's even a billboard somewhere along Uri Drive, I think, or maybe I-20, that says, don't you wish life came with an instruction manual? Well, it does, and it's a picture of a Bible. But it is our instruction manual. But what do we learn from that lesson? The lesson about God commanding you to take your son and sacrifice your son. What do we learn? I mean, we learn that even though all the pagans around you are offering their children as sacrifices, you should not do it. But that's a pretty traumatic way to learn that lesson. You could have just said so, God. You say don't mix the milk of the calf, don't boil the calf in the mother's milk. You don't have to do a demonstration or scare the heck out of me to learn that. I get it. I'm doing it. Fine. And so I'm thinking that sometimes our lessons are what not to do. And sometimes our lessons about how to do things. And that's my big, long commercial for tomorrow morning's Torah study. But if you've got insights about it, I would love to hear it. It was part of what I asked in my wonderings this week, if you saw the wonderings. Do you argue with God? Do you think Abraham should have said, no, I'm not going to offer my son, my only son, the one I love? He argued about other things, and why didn't he argue about that? And what I love about that story is that we get to struggle with that story every year. Torah for us is a living thing in the sense that every year we grapple with it anew. I would be very sad if the answer that I had come up with when I was bat mitzvah, 13-ish, if that's the same answer that I had today. Now that I have a son, and two sons, but now that I have the son that you have, and God tells you to take that son, and I think of it in another way, I don't see it the same way I did when I was 13. So keep looking at the stories, looking at our guideline. It's not like when you get a new car and you learn how to use, all the things in it, and every time you forget how to, set the cruise control, you open the book and there it is, and it's the same exact way. It's not like that, and I love the Torah for that. And that sometimes it tells us what to do, and sometimes it may show us what not to do, and it's our job to look at them and figure out which is which. So enjoy it. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Mr. Vice President.
Good Shabbos. Tonight, about a half hour after service ends, Rabbi Jana would love to visit with you at the Zoom Oneg Shabbat. Tomorrow morning, 9:45, Torah study, and 11 a.m. Shabbat morning service on Zoom. Wednesday, October 27th, from 2 to 3, Rabbi Jana leads a discussion about ethical dilemmas from a Jewish perspective at the Oaks of Louisiana. Next Friday, we will have Shabbat evening services in person and on YouTube, followed by a Zoom Oneg Shabbat. Saturday morning Torah study and services will also be on Zoom. 2 weeks from tonight, Friday, November 5th, is Simchat Shabbat, when we honor everyone with birthdays or anniversaries for November. Donations were made to Benedetti Sisterhood Flower Fund tonight in loving memory of Leonard Phillips by the Kallenberg and Phillips families. In loving memory of Martin Lewis from the Lewis and McGovern families. And in loving memory of Ray Kreisman Selber by Mandel Selber Jr., Kimberly Selber Lester, Colton and Zachary, Mandy Selber III, Rona, Jennifer, and Peter. Please stay safe. For your sake and the sake of those around you, encourage those to do their part to stay well. Good Shabbos.
Thank you. Thank you. You on? We now turn to page 148, and I ask you to please rise when the ark is open for the Aleinu. Please rise. Good thinking.
Aleinu l'shabach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
And on the facing page we will sing.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
When the ark is closed, you may be seated. Thank you. We continue on page 151. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, let us meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. I'm going to turn you to page 153. Life is finite. Like a candle, it burns, it glows, it is radiant with warmth and beauty. Then it fades, its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance and our lives are full. But as night follows day, the candle of our life burns down in gutters. There's an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen. Yet we do not despair, for we are more than a memory slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. However brief may be our time on earth, O God, you endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. I would like us to acknowledge that we have lost, it has become our tradition to acknowledge the loss of the deaths of the military who have served our country and died this year, the police officers who have served our country and died this year, including even the canine officers, the firefighters, those who have died in the line of duty. May we be forever grateful for their service and remember their ultimate sacrifice. And we acknowledge the losses to natural disasters and to COVID-19. And as we recall the loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, we remember the parents of congregants who died this past year. We remember Joseph Paris, Artis Robison, George Rothkopf, Henry Brenner, Ron Riley, and Fred Phillips. And as we remember those who died at this season in years past, we take them into our hearts with our own. Those for whom we're observing Yortzeit this past week include Louis Abramson Jr., Asher C. Bronig, Mrs. Isaac Ebersfield, Jenny Fox, Raya Greenberg, Jacob Haas, Albert Katzenstein, Martin J. Lewis, Charles Lipson, Flora Loeb, Sanford Martin Morris, Israel Maurerman, Leonard Phillips, Charlene Eudice Richstone, Leo Shalinsky, Ray Kreisman Selber, Mrs. L. Samuel Siegel, Max Toys, Jake Vedlitz, Israel Weinstein, and Morton Winkler. In this moment of memory, our griefs and sympathies are mingled. Loving God, we rise as together we praise your name. The mourner's Kaddish is on 154. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chaye chon u'v'yom echon u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehe shemei Rabbah mevarach la'alam u'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shalama rabba min shamaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, and may we be comfort for all who are bereaved. Amen. You may be seated. I could. Do you have an Adon Olam that you like or whatever? We were playing with Adon Olams before. What was the first one we did? Obladi. We did Adon Olam to Obladi. That was fun. Any song you pick, we could Adon Olam to. This is my favorite one that I do, but it's not one that's easy to sing along with. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra, page 156. Le'et Nahasa B'chefzo Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Imloch Nora Hu Haya V'hu Hoveh V'hu Yeh Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Le'ed Nasa B'chefzo Kol Azai Melech V'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora V'hu Haya V'hu Hoveh V'hu Yeh B'tifara Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Le'ed Nasa B'chefzo Kol Azai Melech Shmo Nikra V'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora V'hu Haya V'hu Hoveh B'tifara V'hu Haya V'hu Hoveh B'tifara Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Le'ed Nasa B'chefzo Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra. I like that one. Thank you for asking. And some people sang with me. That was fun. All right, I hate to do this, but I'm going to ask you to please rise for the closing benediction. You should see the look I get on everybody in the congregation every time I say please rise. It's not pretty. It's part of what I like about Zoom services. We don't stand up ever for the Zoom service. I like that. Because standing up during a Zoom service is embarrassing, because then all you see is this. It's not good. It is a wonderful blessing for us to be together today. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. I know that people come for happy reasons, for sad reasons, but it brings me a lot of blessing to see you and to be able to be here for each other. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you. May God protect you. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May the light of God's face shine upon you, be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's face be lifted up to you. May God grant you peace. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Adon Olam Asher Malach. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.